Is gaslighting like obscenity? Okay, now you're like, God, he's really off the reservation. Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart famously wrote in a case involving obscenity in 1964 that he would not attempt to define it, but, quote, I know it when I see it, end quote. I've never really known how to define gaslighting, but I too know it when I see it. What does this have to do with mortgage banking? Well, MBA members and I have just been gaslit by the trade association that represents the credit bureaus. One definition of gaslighting is acts by a person in a position of power designed to manipulate others to doubt themselves or question their own sanity. Tactics include denial, shifting of blame, minimizing, discrediting, and deflecting. We've just witnessed a master class in gaslighting by CDIA, ignoring that their members have a massive financial stake in preserving the status quo of the Tri-Merge Credit Report, a government-granted oligopoly that permits rampant and unchecked price increases. They have the audacity to claim that our proposal to permit a single in-file on GSE loans with a credit score of 700 or above is, quote, a proposal that protects lenders' profits, end quote, and that we, quote, shouldn't put taxpayers at risk just to save mortgage companies a few dollars on their bottom line, end quote. The hyperbole continues as they find a way to evoke irresponsible business practices in the early 2000s, end quote, that, quote, cost millions of consumers their homes and another 2008-style housing collapse. Here's an especially rich claim coming from the bureaus that profit handsomely from a privileged market position that shields them from competition. They say that it is, quote, difficult to imagine lenders passing these purported savings directly onto consumers, end quote. This is a patently offensive argument from companies that operate under a government-granted oligopoly. Mortgage originating, as you all know way better than I do, is one of the most competitive financial services products on the market, with thousands of originators competing every day for scarce purchase loans and refinances in the midst of the toughest market conditions in decades. Meanwhile, the credit bureaus, immune from any meaningful competition, continue to report year-over-year revenue growth in their mortgage verticals. The competitive market, a foreign concept to the bureaus, will ensure that reductions in mortgage origination costs will be passed on to consumers, both in the actual cost of the credit report on the closing statement and in the reduced overhead cost of credit reports paid for by lenders for loans that do not close. As to their argument about risk to the GSEs, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac produce loans with pristine credit quality. Recent public reports show that their average credit score is 757, that 75% of their loans have credit scores over 740, and that only 6% have scores below 680. From a risk management perspective, continuing to require 3 in-files and 3 scores on every borrower has long been an anachronism. And you don't have to take my word for it. 3 years and 3 months ago, in October of 2022, FHFA, responsible for supervising and conserving the assets of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, determined that the tri-merge was not required. It approved moving to a bi-merge for all GSE loans. Our proposal for a single in-file guards against excessive risk-taking by setting a 700 credit score floor and permitting lenders to pull 2 or 3 reports and scores at their option. While we appreciate the CDIA telling us how to conduct business with our customers, reminding us that, quote, lenders are already permitted to charge consumers up front for credit reports, end quote, the bureaus do not interact with consumers at the point of sale, and I doubt it would be a winning strategy for a lender to say to a prospective consumer who asks about mortgage products and interest rates, give me your credit card number to pay for a credit report and then I'll quote you a rate. It would also render consumer shopping for the best mortgage rate completely cost prohibitive. I could go on, as I already have, but I'll just leave you, wait, what does that say? I'll just leave you with those howlers from this exquisite piece of gaslighting. Anytime CDIA or the bureaus, who you'll remember fought our efforts to end the scourge of trigger leads tooth and nail, ever want to have a serious and constructive dialogue, count me in. We even agree on one point, which is that competition in the credit scoring space would be a positive development, even though the entity that would provide said competition is, wait for it, owned by the 3 bureaus. That's the competition we have. Until then, enough with this nonsense.